Get ready for University of Georgia basketball.
I waited here for you for so very long. I waited here for you so long. I waited here for you,
All right, guys. So, got a few things to get to today. You know, I didn't get to record Sunday, and to be honest with you, I didn't feel like doing it Monday. So, we're here. After this, we will record the new episode of Dogs After Dark. But it won't be released till I think Friday night this week. But we're gonna get a consistent week of what day that will be released. But we get to talk about Georgia soccer last game, Georgia soccer's next game, which is the soccer and Sanford game. I hope my battery don't freaking die while I'm recording this. And then as well, get to talk about Georgia football ranked in the AP poll. So, where's Georgia ranked? You know, we'll look at everybody else too. So we're going to take a look at the SEC soccer schedule. Now, if you're wondering how Georgia did, well, Georgia is now 0-2. Georgia somehow, incredibly, and I've never seen. We saw this last year, and then we saw it last year, and then it's kind of happening again this year. Georgia drew with Illinois 1-1. Georgia had a 1-0 lead, and then very, very late in the game, not Illinois, Minnesota. Georgia drew with Minnesota. Georgia scored first. The Dogs were playing really good. And then, Minnesota scored a goal very, very late in the game. And, that was that. They didn't have enough time to be able to come back. And, of course, it's kind of a BS rule, but there's no overtime in college soccer. There really needs to be at least play an extra period, at least play an extra 15 or 20 minutes, and then if you don't score, you could take the draw, but don't understand why there's not a overtime period in college soccer. That's been something I've always wondered. I started watching college soccer since COVID. I really don't quite understand what the rule of that is. In my personal opinion, excuse me, I don't understand the rule of why there's no, I don't understand why there's no rule of overtime there. So, the rest of the scores went like this. Georgia, Minnesota 1-1. Tennessee, South Alabama 2-0. Ole Miss over Louisiana Lafayette 2-1. Wake Forest over South Carolina 3-0. And Arkansas over Wyola, Maryland, they tied 1-1, so they had a draw. Auburn over Jacksonville State 5-0. Mississippi State over UAB 2-1. East Tennessee State over Vanderbilt beat East Tennessee State 4-0. Hold on, we're trying to find where we were at. Oklahoma over East Texas A&M Remember the first video I said I feel really bad for them. They only lose 2-0, so it ain't that bad for beat down. LSU over Northwestern State 5-0. Baylor over Texas A&M 2-1. Kentucky over Kent State 2-5. That's it. There's only one game on Wednesday, and that's Texas A&M and Texas State. So the rest of the league pretty much plays. The rest of the SEC pretty much plays on Thursday with Georgia. So, and that's what we're going to talk to next. The soccer and Stanford game. This has been built up the whole year, man. It's been built up the entire year since it was announced, and now we're ready for it, and we are very, very excited for it. And I'm very honored, not officially, but I'm very honored to kind of be a voice of this event. And I'm ready to go live stream it, and we're going to have fun with that, and we're going to do a great time, and then, of course, it won't be live, but the entire game will be uploaded with my call, and if Georgia wins, we'll have highlights, but even if James Madison wins, we'll have highlights too, so we're very excited for this. This has been a long time coming for Georgia soccer to have something special that nobody else could say you've done. You could take a look in the mirror and say, yes, I did that, and that is this game for Georgia soccer. Georgia soccer, we've talked about this story a few times, but I've streamed almost every single Georgia soccer game since 2021, so I've grown to very, very much love this program. But we're going to call soccer and we're going to call football, I don't call them the same. I'm a lot more down to the gritty when it comes to soccer. But for football, I mean, you guys already know how it's going to go, but besides the point, we've streamed Georgia soccer since 2021, and I absolutely love it. I think that, unfortunately, a lot of our streams are gone, and they don't exist anymore. I do have a few from 2022 and 23 on YouTube. And it's because I didn't do a great job of archiving those. I didn't really care to archive my own stuff as much as I cared to archive Scott, so... which in Dog After Dark we have something drama to talk about, so about that situation. So yeah, Georgia soccer, James Madison. This is something that is going to be very, very great for Georgia. Be very great, but more importantly, it's going to be very great for Georgia soccer. And you hope Georgia can finally pick up their first win of the year for this game. That would be very nice. I looked at the schedule, I said, well, we're playing Big Ten teams first, so this actually will be the first game we get to stream, so, that's awesome. So, so Georgia soccer drew with Minnesota, and, Georgia soccer now will play in Sanford Stadium, James Madison. Time to turn the page to college football. The Associated Press came out yesterday, the AP poll, which is the one that matters most until like November when the college football playoff poll. November. I should say December. Here's a funny story. I remember in 2017, that was the last year I was in middle school. I might have been, I was in middle school. I was like probably my first year in middle school or so. And, I remember going to trick or treat. That was the very last year I went. There was one year we had to go with my little sister, but we didn't dress up or anything like that. We just kind of sat in the car while they went out street to street. We had to go because there was nobody else here, and that was a very fun one too. But that wasn't on a game day. So, 2017 college football playoff poll. That was on Halloween. That was the very first revealing of the college football playoff poll in 2017 was on Halloween. And I got called. My brother called my mom to tell me that Georgia was number one. Man, I went ballistic. on the streets. That was just an incredible moment that I'll never forget. That's the first time I've ever seen Georgia number one in college football. My favorite college football playoff ranking fact, though, is Mississippi State. They were the first ever number one ranked team in the college football playoff poll. That's very cool when you think about that because 2014, you could have a talk of yourself. You know, a lot of people, I believe that TCU was screwed, and there's a lot of other people too that believe some other teams are screwed there. But I remember watching that because back then I liked Oregon, so that's when Mark Helfrich was there, and Marcus Mariota, and Darren Carrington, and Royce Freeman. They were fun to watch, and that's why I liked them, because they were fast. In the SEC, back then, my mind was feeling like when in the SEC, you have slow, gritty, snap the ball, hand it off for 5 yards, and apparently Mike Bobo do a screenplay on every pass. And Oregon was the exact opposite. Oregon would run 6 plays a minute, like, when you're like 9 years old, you're like, oh my gosh. But obviously, Georgia was still the number one team. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, I watched Oregon there for a little while. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, that was just a very fun point. So the AP ranking only matters till the college football playoff come out. But, we're going to look at it. So we're not going to look at the points or anything like that because I don't understand that. But, the rankings are these. Ohio State is number 1. Oregon is 14. Georgia is 3. Notre Dame is 4. Texas Longhorns 5. Indiana at 6. Miami Hurricanes at 7. Texas A&M Aggies at 8. Ole Miss at 9. Oklahoma Sooners at 10, so it seems that Texas is ranked higher than Oklahoma, so I guess Texas wins the preseason rivalry. LSU at 11, that's very shocking. I really thought LSU would be a little more higher than that. Texas Tech 12, Alabama Crimson Tide at 13, BYU at 14, Southern. Why are they both listed at 14? Oh, because they had the same amount of points. So I guess 15, Southern Cal. The 2023 National Championship with Michigan and Washington. They're right there at 16 and 17. Michigan 16, Washington at 17. Penn State at 18. SMU at 19. Tennessee Volunteers at 20. That's good to see. Utah at 21. 22, Iowa. Did I ever say Iowa State in this poll? No, I did not. 23, Houston Cougars. 24, Louisville Cardinals. They're not going to do anything this year. And 25, a team that I talked about, and I'm going to talk about Missouri. 25. Let's just give a round of applause for Missouri. I get tired on my social media feeds of everybody want to talk crap about Missouri, but Missouri has done more in the SEC than Texas A&M has done. And that's not an opinion, that is a fact. Yes, they haven't made the playoffs, but guess what they have had? They've made the conference championship 2 times every year. And I like Texas A&M, but I'm not talking bad about Texas A&M. I don't have a dog in that fight. I like Missouri and I like Texas A&M. But everybody wants to be like Texas A&M has. Why is A&M here, or A&M deserves to be here, but Missouri don't deserve to be here? Missouri has made the SEC championship twice. In the last 3 years, 2023, 24, and 25, A&M had a chance to make it, and they lost on the very last day of the year. Now, I know Missouri hasn't been, there either recently, but, Missouri just deserves much better than that, man. So anyway, what do I feel about this? Well, I wouldn't have I like Ohio State at 1. I could go with that. Becoming the Ohio State, they're one of the best teams in the nation. But I would have changed this top 5. So it would be Ohio State, it'd be Georgia at 2, it'd be Texas at 3, Indiana at 4 and LSU at 5. So I don't understand what these guys were doing when they made this poll because, LSU's all the way down at 11. They only had 988 points. And again, I don't even know what that means. So I would have had Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Texas 3, Indiana 4, and LSU at 5. That is absurd that they were put 11th. Ahead of teams they might have beat last year. Well, I really don't know who they beat last year, but teams that they'll beat this year, they'll beat Oklahoma. If they play A&M and Oklahoma, they'll beat them. They won't beat Texas, and they don't even play Georgia, so there's no need to even start that debate. But, I'd say this. You look at this top 10, you look at Oklahoma, Ole Miss, A&M, Miami, Indiana, Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon, Oregon, and the Ohio State University. Y'all might not want to admit this. LSU would beat 90% of those teams, in my opinion. LSU would beat Ohio State, LSU would beat Oregon, LSU would beat Notre Dame, LSU would beat Texas, LSU would beat Indiana, LSU would beat Miami, LSU would beat Texas A&M, and LSU would beat Oklahoma. I don't think they would beat Ole Miss and or Georgia, but, I guess it ain't about who. That's what I would have. If I did the rankings, that's what it would be about. Who would beat who? So you do top 25. You go 2 teams. You say, I'll use Missouri and Tarleton State. Tarleton State's ranked 25. Missouri's 25. Tarleton State's 24. Missouri would beat Tarleton State, so they should be 24. Then you keep going from there. Missouri versus Notre Dame. Missouri would win that game. If any SEC team played Notre Dame this year, I don't know what their schedule is. And to be quite honest, I don't care because there probably is no SEC team on their schedule. Because, let's Google that right now, actually, before I spread false information. Notre Dame football. I do like their new Irish logo, though. Let's see. No SEC team. Yep, no SEC team. They get to play Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, Purdue, North Carolina, Notre Dame, BYU, Navy, Miami Hurricanes, Notre Dame, Notre Dame plays Notre Dame, Boston College, SMU, and Syracuse. No SEC team on their schedule. No, Georgia, LSU, Missouri, maybe not, and I hate to say this because they're first years, maybe not Kentucky, and maybe not, well, he ain't first year, but maybe not Vanderbilt. You get Josh Summerall going at Florida, he'll beat Notre Dame. They could beat Notre Dame easy. We all know Georgia's beat them twice. Yeah, Georgia beat them twice in 2024, or 2025 in the Sugar Bowl. That game hurt, but it was just so weird considering everything around it. I don't even consider that. Alabama, I don't like Kalen DeBoer. Now I just learned that Kalen DeBoer was one of the reasons Eli Gold got fired. But Alabama would beat Notre Dame. You think Lane Kiffin and Pete Golding and LSU and Ole Miss ain't gonna beat Notre Dame? Yeah. LSU would smack Notre Dame in the face, and so would Ole Miss. Who am I missing? Texas? Texas will run circles around Notre Dame. Arch Manning would throw for 400 yards. Oklahoma would beat Notre Dame. Not under Lincoln Riley. They might have actually under Lincoln Riley. But, he's kind of like a has-been at this point. Oklahoma would beat them. The only team that if they played this year they wouldn't beat. South Carolina would beat Notre Dame with Shane Beamer. Lenora Sellers. He'd be unstoppable in that game. But I said this about Scott in the game getting fired, and nobody talking about it, about protecting the brand. Nobody wants to admit that Notre Dame will lose because it's protecting the brand. I don't give a frick about the Notre Dame brand. I don't like Notre Dame. I ain't never even watched a Notre Dame game, but except when they played Georgia. And that one year they lost to Northern Illinois, 2022. I don't care about the brand. And trust me, on Dog After Dark, you will hear me talk about the Georgia side of that, of where I actually got that idea from. So I ain't gonna say nothing about it on here, but I don't care about the brand. I love Marcus Freeman. He's top 3 favorite coaches in college football for me, personal. But he just went to such a bad school, man. You went to Notre Dame. Nobody likes them, man. This ain't 1970 no more. You went to Notre Dame, man. You couldn't have Marcus Freeman went anywhere else. He'd be like my favorite coach in the NCAA. He's free. Current coaches, he's free. He'd be in top 3. It ain't in this order. It'd be some variation of Day, Kirby, and Freeman. I'm not a big Kurt Cinetti fan. You know, I like Dabo's a great dude. He's a good Christian man. But, you know, they haven't really done anything. I don't really care for Clemson either. I guess that has something to do with that. You know, I really, it's funny. Because I remember talking to people. I like LSU. You know, I'm not an LSU hater by no means. I really, really like LSU. Them and Mississippi State are. I'm just giving an example here because you know how I feel about them. LSU and Mississippi State were the teams that I cheered for in the West, when the SEC West existed. I really love LSU. I've liked LSU for a long time. I go back to liking LSU. I can remember as far as 2011. That was before they played Georgia. I really didn't care for them after they played Georgia for a little while, but I do remember, I'd actually say probably about 2015 when they had Leonard Fournette. I loved watching him play at LSU. I remember one of the best sports moments I have actually is watching LSU Auburn. LSU went on a game-winning field goal. That was really cool. So, I was so happy. I was jumping up and down. But anyway, it's funny how you can predict things. Because I remember when Brian Kelly was hired at LSU, I was like, Brian Kelly ain't gonna do crap at LSU. And, you know, look what happened. They didn't do crap. They did something his first year. They went to the SEC championship game, but they didn't go nowhere else. They went home. They weren't even in the playoff discussion. They were terrible. But now Lane Kiffin's there. And people don't really... I don't know what the thing with Lane Kiffin is. You know, a lot of people don't like him. I'll say this. At the end of the day, all in all, I like Lane. You know, I know Tennessee fans don't because of what happened there, rightfully so. I mean, you know, if somebody had done that to Georgia, I would feel the same. But, you know, I like Lane, and I think that LSU is... And that AP poll, they should be a top 5 team, in my opinion. They should be a top 5 team, and they will be a top 5 team this year. They'll definitely have a better season than Will Wade will. That's for sure. At basketball, because at some moment I read they only had 4 players on the roster. So yeah, guys, I gotta stop. That's the AP poll. Georgia is free. And remember, Georgia soccer versus James Madison Thursday. We will have the live stream of soccer in Sanford, Georgia, and James Madison. I now got to record Dog After Dark, and do not mind me because I will be whining about something that has really bothered me. So, go Dogs.
Dogs do the improbable, the unthinkable, the unbelievable. They beat Arkansas and go wire to wire to win the
ACC tournament.